Hello everyone. So today we'll be talking about object destructuring and basics of array. So let's go ahead and recap what we have learned so far about objects. So we have learned that objects are initialized by a const or let or variable, like anything const obj1 and then equal and then curly braces. Obj1 is already declared, I think, so let's go for obj4, and then we can store values in here as a key and value pair. First we need to mention our key, like this is our key of hey, and the value can be hey as well. Let's go ahead and log obj4 dot hey. Okay, it's capital H actually. Yeah, so we get hey in return, so we can tap the key and get the value. And at the end of the video we did learn about how to clone an object. Like let's go ahead and clone this obj1 and 2. Let's go ahead and log obj1 and 2 first and have a look at them. So we have obj1 of foo bar x42, foo bars x13. Okay, so we have both of them right here in the console, and let's try to clone them. Let's go for const cloned obj1. Let's name it this, and then use the curly braces and then dot 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 obj1, and let's go ahead and log cloned obj1, and let's comment out the object2 to avoid confusion. And as you can see, we get the exact same object. So by using curly braces and dot 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 and then the object name can give you a shallow copy of the previous object, and we can do the same for const. Let's go for let this time. Cloned obj2 curly braces dot 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 obj2 because we want to clone obj2, and let's go and console log cloned obj2. And as we can see, let's comment this one out to avoid confusion. So we get the exact same object here again, and we can use both of these objects together. Let's go for merged object, another object, and then use the curly braces and then use dot 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 obj1. So this will basically destructure, I mean shallow copy the previous obj1. Let's go ahead and go for merge object. Let's go ahead and log it. So we log merge object, and as we can see, we are getting the clone of object1 because we have cloned here as well. Merged object is now obj1 foo bar x42, and let's try to merge something else because it will just overwrite it as it's the same name, obj3. Let's say work programming, and we want to separate these key and value using colon, and let's say salary 4000. Okay, so we have our merged object here. We use dot 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 obj1 and copied this object right here, as we can see in the log. Okay, we're trying to clone object2 here. Let's comment this one out as well. Okay, so foo bar x is the merged object because we have just taken obj1 here. Let's go ahead and add a comma, just like we did with other objects. Between these object properties we use comma to separate them. So this is an object and we use comma to separate this one as well. Let's go ahead and go dot 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 obj3, and now we'll get the both of these objects combined in a merged object. So merging is adding something up, or okay. So we get foo bar x42 work programming and salary 4000. We get all of them. We copy it like this. And okay, also I wanted to show another thing in my last video, which is accessing object using obj3 dot. We usually do it like this, like obj3 dot work. I've shown you guys this one here, but so we get programming. Let's comment this one out. So we use control and slash to comment things out and comment them back in. Okay, so we get obj3 dot work, we get programming. We can also access it like this, as I've talked about in the last video. So we can do work, but we didn't talk about how to access this when we are using nested objects. Like, let's go for salary and create another object and say sum 4000. This is another object inside this obj3. So we would do, let's bring it up here. We use alt and up arrow or down arrow to move code in VS Code. So we do obj3 work, and we can do salary here as well to access the nested. Okay, this isn't working for some reason. Okay, it's not work, it's salary, right? My bad. So we should do sum here, and we get 4000. So we are going for obj3 first, and then we are going for the salary key. And when we are in the salary key, we access the sum key and we get the 4000 in our console log. And let's go ahead and delete this sum. So we tab only salary key, so we should get an object with sum 4000, and yeah, we get an object with sum as 4000, and we can add the sum here back in, and we get 4000 here as we would expect. Okay, so now this video is mainly about destructuring objects. Let's go ahead and learn that in this javascript tutorial.net website, and I will provide you guys the link in the description below, so you can have a read by yourself. So let's go ahead and learn what they are going to teach us. So summary: in this tutorial you learn about javascript object destructuring, which assigns properties of an object to individual variables. So this is pretty similar to what we did above, which is just assigning variables to key and property. Let's see that example above, which was this, yeah, this one. So what we are doing here is assigning these variables. Let's just add a B and C and nothing else. A and C, we must add comma in between them, comma. Yeah. Okay, so let's go ahead and log O. So what we get here is a foo b42c as empty object. Essentially the variables here, variable a equal to foo, and we just do O and object initializing, and then we do ABC. So it automatically my bad, automatically takes the variable name and assigns it as the key, and then assigns it variable value to the value of the object as well. So we can see a is foo here as an object, and we can do the opposite here as well. Let's go ahead and have a look at it here. So let's do let person, let's just copy and paste it here. Let's comment this out. It's pretty similar to that what we did previously. So what we could do here to get the other person's first name and last name here. Let's go ahead and log them. Person dot first name, and we can do person dot last name, and we can log them out here, John and Doe. But what if we want them to store in a value, right? I mean in a variable. Let's go ahead and create let first underscore name equal to person dot first name, and we can do let last underscore name equal to person dot last name. Okay, so we are doing under case here, which is I think snake case, but we should be using camel case here. Camel casing is just using a capital after each word, like first is a word and then use the capital letter for N. So we get a better readability here, first name, just like we did here. Okay, so we do let first name and let say last name equal to person dot first name and person dot last name. Let's go ahead and log these values, first name, and let's log last name as well. So we get the exact same value here, John and Doe, as we did previously by using just first name and last name. Let's go ahead and do person dot first name, and we can do person dot log, not gig, person dot last name. Okay, so we get the exact same value here because this variable storing the same value here, we are getting exactly the same value because of that. So we could do this, or we could do it in a easier way like this, const and then do first name comma last name. Now we'll get an error because we're using the same name here, equal to, and then we use the object name here like this, person, and then we can do a log of first name and a log of last name, and we'd get the exact same value because we are destructuring it. So essentially what destructuring is doing, it is doing the opposite of this part here. Let me show you guys this below together so we can have a better look at it. Okay, let's zoom out a little bit. Okay, so what we're doing here is assigning the variables to the key and value of object, and here we are differentiating the variable name and the key value of the object. So what we're doing here is we're destructuring the first name and the last name from this object by using the curly braces around the variable names. So we are saying first name will be the key of first name from this object. So we define the object here, person is the object. So we define the object here, and then we assign the variables here just like we would otherwise, like we can do const name equal to Arshad. So this is just a regular variable or a constant, if you will. So we assign the name here, like the variable name or the constant name in this case, and then we use the value here. So we do pretty much the same here. We do first name here, which is the variable name, and then we use the person reference, the object reference here, and now this constant will just go into this object like in person, and then look for this key, which will find, okay, first name. Okay, we got first name, so we'll just assign the first name into this first name variable, and then we can access it right here, John Doe. We can provide other name as well, just like what they did here. First name not equal to colon f name. So we can provide a different name to this, like they did here, f name, let's say. Now if I do first name, log of first name, we get undefined because first name is no longer a variable because it is now f name. Let's go ahead and log f name, and we get the exact same value. Let's do the same for last name, l name, and we can see that last name is not defined, and we can do L name here and we get the exact same result. So we are destructuring it in the same way. We are declaring the key value object here using variables. So we are doing a equal to foo, or we can do o equal to, and then define the variables, which will then automatically make it this one, the variable name equal to a key, and the value equal to a value of that key. We store in key values, right? Okay, so let's go ahead and see what they did next. So if name, and okay, so they did the same thing here, and they did variable 1 and variable 2. I think they did that to make it more understandable, I guess. Okay, so we get the exact same results, but if we do something like last name, what we did previously, we'd get errors because they are not defined anymore. They are no longer a variable. They have been renamed to variable by using this colon right here. Okay, so let's go for variable 1 and variable 2 just like before. So how we do it is curly braces and then the key name. The key name is first name here, and then we can assign the variable name if we want, but if we don't, it's fine as well. It will be just the key name as the variable name. Let's go ahead and see what they did next. Okay, so they did, okay, so if we, okay, so if we try to destructure something that is not here, like let's go for a middle name, we can add a middle name here as well, middle name. So now if we log middle name here, we will get undefined because it is not defined yet, right? We haven't defined anything here. The variable middle name will just try to go for person and then try to find a key of middle name, but it will not get it, and so we'll get an undefined here because it is not defined yet, right? Okay, so setting default values, yes, we can do that as well. We can go for middle name equal to let's say Chaudhuri, and then if I do console log here, despite this middle name is not available in this person object, we will get Chaudhuri because we're setting a default value here. We can set anything here. We can go for 1 and we'd get 1 here. We can go for number 1 as well, we'd get number 1 here. So we can define a variable just like we did before, just like we did const name here, right? We can do middle name here, middle name 2, let's say Arshad, just for example. So we are defining the variable right here like this, and we are doing the variable defining here like this. So it's basically the same because it's the same const and the same middle name and then same value, let's say. So we can define a variable like this, not a variable, let's say it's a default value. So if there's no value here, it will be replaced by this, but if there is a value, let's say we have a middle name here of JSON. If we have a middle name, and now this console log will result to JSON, not 1, and as you can see it says JSON and not 1 because it will avoid the middle name default value here. It is a default value, so it will overtake when there is no middle name, but when there is a middle name it will print out that middle name here. Let's comment this one out and we'll get 2 here once again because it's a default value, it's a fallback value. Okay, so let's go ahead and see what they did here. Okay, so they did assign a default value of empty string, and they will get the empty string here, and they are assigning current age to 28 and then setting default age to 18, but when they are logging it they are getting 28 as a result because it is overtaking this one. Okay, destructuring a null object, I don't think that's necessary for us. We'll talk about null object and stuff later on. Okay, nested object destructuring, let's go ahead and do this one. Oh, my bad. Okay, where was I? Let's go ahead and copy this part. Let's comment these codes out. Okay, so we have employee here, and what we do next is destructure it like this. Let's go ahead and understand things, what we are doing here. We are essentially doing the same thing here. We are going for a variable as name here, and then we're saying name will be first name and last name, and it is getting destructured here once again, and we're getting first name and last name at the end. Let's go ahead and do it step by step. Let's go for id first, not like this, curly braces and then id, and then we refer the object name, which is the employee. Let's comment these out for now, and let's try to log id, and we get 1001 just like we have here, because we have destructured it, right? We have said, okay, I want a variable of id, which is the key here of this employee object, and we assign this to the same of employee and id key. So we are assigning a variable here, and we can rename it here as well. Let's name it to real id. Oh, not like this, my bad. Real id. And now this id will say undefined, of course, and we can log the real id here because we have renamed it, and real id is giving us 1001 once again. Okay, so let's try nested destructuring, and we go for name here. So what we get in the name, let's go ahead and try this. So we get first name and last name, of course. So we are trying to destructure this name and from this object, so we are assigning a name variable here, and then we are going for this object, and we are checking for this name id, name key, not id, name key, and we are getting this whole object back, as we can see in the console log here. And then we go for once again go for this nested destructuring. We go for name and then colon first name and last name, and we get we didn't log first name actually. Now we log first name and we get John here from here. Let's see what happens step by step, and let's try to destructure name, right? So we have a name here, and we get the name, first name and last name. So what we were doing previously is this: first name comma last name equal to name object. So we are referencing this name object now, and as we can see, we are getting John here once again. So firstly we are going for this variable name, and then we are going to this object employee, and then we are going for checking for this name key, and we get a match, so we get this object returned here as name. So if we log name here, we get that whole object, first name and last name and stuff. So we get this whole object, and then we destructure it once again. We do let first name and then last name and go for name. So the first name variable will just check for this same key value in this name, and then last name variable will go for this name object and check for this key value as well, and get the respective values from there, like John. And if we log last name, we get Doe, I'm pretty sure, last name, and yeah, we get Doe, of course. So we were doing that same thing in one line right here. we were doing some nested stuff. It's doing the essential, we are doing essentially the same thing here. So we are destructuring the name first, and then in this destructuring we are destructuring it once again as first name and last name. And we can assign different names here so we don't get any error. We are assigning it to the same name, so we are getting an error because we can't have the same name as constant and let variable. Console.log list underscore name, and we'll get the exact same value from here, John Doe, because we are doing the same thing, but here we are doing it in a simpler way so we can understand things step by step, and here we are doing it in a bit advanced way or a nested way. They're doing essentially the same thing, which is pretty much the same thing, but yeah, it's a bit complex. Okay, so it's possible to do multiple assignment of property to multiple variables. Okay, so they are doing the same thing here now. So they are destructuring the name and the first name, last name. So they are doing that same thing here. So we are getting the name here as a variable as well. So if we do nested thing here, like the nested destructuring here, we can access the name as the object here as well. I mean, the whole object. Okay, destructuring a function argument. Okay, let's not get into functions and stuff. We'll talk about these in a later video. Okay, so this was really helpful. I will send a feedback to them, and I will link this in the description as well, so you can have a read yourself and try to explore things yourself. Okay, so let's go ahead and learn array basics now. So what are arrays? First we need to know. So the array object, as with arrays in other programming language, enables storing a collection of multiple items under a single variable name, and has members for performing common array operations, of course. So JavaScript arrays are resizable and can contain a mix of different data types. Yes, we can have everything like number, string, and anything. JavaScript arrays are not associative arrays, and so array elements cannot be accessed using arbitrary strings as indexes. So not like objects, but we must access them using non-negative integers. So we cannot use them using -1, -2. We can do that in Python, but not in JavaScript. So JavaScript array are zero index. Yes, so I've talked about this previously. So in array we start from 0 and not from 1. But usually when we do base 10 we start from 1 2 3 4 5 6, but in array we start from 0 1 2 3 4 5 6. Okay, so JavaScript array copy operation create shallow copies, just like we did here with the object copy as well. We can do ... curly braces first, then ... name. So we have copied the name here. If we define copied name equal to ... name, and if we log copied name, we get the same value as the name, which is a full object of first name and last name. So array copies are shallow copies as well. So we'll talk about shallow copies and deep copies later on, but let's go ahead and see how we write arrays, right? How we create arrays, not write arrays. Okay, so we do it like arr. This is just a variable, this is not specifically an array. Then we assign these square brackets. Now this is an array, and we can store many variables in it, like name, Arshad, programming. So these are multiple strings we are storing in an array. So we cannot use it like we did previously in array, like add and then use name here. We can't do this. Let's go ahead and see what we get if we do this. I'm pretty sure we won't get the name here. Instead we'll get an error. Yes, of course. Okay, not error but undefined. Yeah, pretty close. So how do we access array properties? We used to do it like array.name. We don't have a key value pair, we have just values here. So we access it using non-negative numbers. So we cannot do -2 here. It will be undefined because it is not defined. Let's go ahead and add 0 to access the first one. So when we do add 0, we get name. And when we do 1, we get Arshad. When we do 2, we get programming. Okay, so how do we access array values now? By using non-negative numbers. Start from 0. So you'd think, okay, if I do R1, we'd get name, but no, we'll get Arshad. But if we want the first index, we'll do R0. So that's how we access array values. It is unlike object. It is pretty different than object. So we do r.0 and we get a syntax error. They tried to do it like object here. We cannot do it. Let's try here as well. We cannot do it, of course. We get error because, okay, what is this? We can go for 0 like this, or we can go for array.at. We have a method called, okay, I have came into a very wrong website. Array@. So we can do it like this as well. Not flat, my bad. Add 0 and we get the name as well. Let's read here. The at method of array instances take an integer value and returns the item of that index, allowing for positive and negative integers. Okay, we can access negative integers as well. Negative integers count back from the last item in the array. So it's like Python. Let's go for -1 and we should get programming. Yes, we are getting programming. Let's go for -2. We can go get Arshad. Okay, so when we do 0, we target the first one, name, and when we do -1, we are getting the last one of this array. And not when we do this. When we do this, like array indexing, square bracket and then number, we cannot do the -1, what we just showed you. But when we do array.at, we can do the -1, not flat, my god. -2 and we get Arshad, or 0 we get name, -1 and we get programming. It starts from the last part. So if we do -1, we get programming. If we do -2, we get Arshad. And if we do -3, we get name. And if we do -4, we get undefined because it is not defined at all. Okay, so okay, so this is pretty much the very basics of JavaScript arrays, right? How do we initialize an array? By using a variable name, like let's say name array, and then using square bracket and just storing values here, any name we want. Arshad, Sajjad, Rifat, Minha. We can store any names here, and then we access it like this. Log name array, we must define that, and then access the first one like this. Not this one, let's comment this one out. Or we can do .at, not flat. The VS Code keeps on suggesting me flat. Okay, thank you VS Code. So 0 we get Arshad, and if we do -1, we'd get Minha because it is the last one of this array. So arrays are object as well. Let's go ahead and see that by using type of and then using the variable name, and we get object here as well. And we said it in the first as well, the array object. Okay, so these are pretty much the basics of array, and we've also covered destructuring. And if you guys don't understand objects properly, or if you have any questions, feel free to comment in my last video and check out my last video. My last video was about objects, and I tried to go into as much detail as possible as a beginner. So if I go any further advanced in objects, you might not get it. I'm trying to keep these videos as beginner friendly as possible. Okay, thank you very much, and I will see you guys in the next video. Like my video if you liked it, dislike it if you disliked it, and subscribe to my channel even if you disliked it. Thank you, and I will see you guys in the next video.